Hello, hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we will be talking about this debate with Michael Knowles and Brad Polumbo. Michael Knowles is with the Daily Wire, and Brad is with Base Politics, and so they talked about transgenderism, and they talked about like how far should the law go, different with their rights, and who should use a bathroom and who should have surgery at what age, etc., blah blah blah. So it was a I don't know, I was gonna say fascinating. I don't want to be rude to both of them, but I think it was that fascinating. I was interested in it, I guess, to see certain things that each other accused each other of at the beginning, how they addressed that, and I did think Michael said his statements or positions didn't make sense and they were incoherent, and I agree with Michael, but looking through the comments, a lot of people thought they both did well and thought that they're like, oh, I like Michael, but I thought Brad did pretty well, though I disagree with him. I don't think his arguments make much sense, but we'll go through that. Michael did fine. I guess Michael said normal things that I think that you would reply to a lot of this stuff, though I guess some of his positions are debatable about how far you would take things, which we can get to that when we get to that segment. Also, I want to talk about Budweiser. They did a commercial. A friend told me about a commercial they put out, and I mentioned it the other day, but I hadn't seen it. So I did see the ad, and it was a sponsored ad on Twitter, actually. I'm like, oh, this is what they were talking about, which I'm definitely not the target market for that. Then the only reason why I'm talking about Budweiser and Bud Light is because of the controversy surrounding it, because I don't drink at all. So that's a hit. That's a big, hit and miss, and just a big miss, swing and a miss as far as me being the intended viewer there for that ad. I ain't it, but I'm glad it popped up, though, because I was looking for it. And then someone did a parody of it, so that's actually the first thing we talk about. Also, Don Lemon interviewed the grandson of the shooter of the 16-year-old who rang his doorbell, and then the man shot him, and he said he was racist, and the reason he gave was so broad, and I'm like, this story, like, it's a messed up story, but the way that we frame like our politics around when these things happen are so weird, and we'll get to that when we get to that segment. But before we go into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles. Please check out the article I dropped yesterday about cisgender being a slur. And please make sure that you follow me on the different social medias. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, in the description there's different links to different places that you can follow me. Please go to the website, drop in your email if you're interested in getting updates on articles, videos, and events, and etc. Please do that, because you never know when something might happen. Yesterday, Matt Walsh revealed he got hacked. I don't think we talked about him getting hacked the other day. He got hacked the other day, but that's not the only eventful thing that happened. So he got totally demonetized from YouTube, and according to Michael Knowles, at least from his tweet, they wanted him to change his language, or kind of threatened banning him altogether. So he's just not going to, from my understanding, be on YouTube at all. But his show is going to be free on Daily Wire, and they're going to put it on other places, just not on YouTube. And so you never know what might happen or how they might throw the hammer down. So please go make sure that you're following people that you like and on all sorts of different social medias. But I do have a website. I do have an email list. maybe don't send out as many emails as I probably should, but make sure that you do sign up for those things so you can stay in contact. Please make sure that you do that. And if you like what I do here, please support at blacktnews.com so we can continue to grow, continue to build some more infrastructure. So if you like what I do here, consider a gift of $10, $20. We could do more, it's very much appreciated. If you can't do that, I understand, but if you can, God bless you. You can go direct. You can if you're watching on YouTube, you can't do super chats and stickers and stuff, but if you would like to give directly, you can go to the website, and YouTube won't get their cut. So if you want to do it that way, I very much appreciate it if you can. But that sucks for Daily Wire. But I will say, people did point out and bring up the whole contract with Steven Crowder, which I did a video on that. Everybody had a lot of opinions. I made sure to watch a lot of different content surrounding it, and including stuff that Crowder put out, that Daily Wire put out, in the commentary from the hosts, the commentary from Jeremy Boring going through the contract, and other people talking about it. I watched a lot of content before I decided to weigh in, mostly because I was out of town at the March for Life when all that sort of popped off, and I didn't have time to go through it till I really got back. But I gave a pretty thoughtful answer to the whole drama. But if you're unfamiliar, they offered him a big contract, and according to but Steven's people allegedly wanted more, but they said that the real issue with the contract was that it had these penalties in them. Like, if I'm demonetized from YouTube or something, I would get paid less. And so he's been demonetized from YouTube. So why would you put that in the contract? And Daily Wire's thing was, it wasn't a contract. It was just like a starting point for negotiation or whatever. And it was a big mess. But people are like, well, is Matt Walsh's contract going to be deducted now because he's demonetized? I would wager that Matt Walsh doesn't have that in his contract. And I think most people probably wouldn't want to end up with that in their contract. And you could say, well, why would Daily Wire put that in there in the first place? I don't know, but apparently other people who did contracts with them, said they like negotiating, and like one time someone was like no for the first offer they gave him, and Boring was like, just so you should negotiate. It's like, you could come with a great offer kind of first, and but I'm sure that that's probably not in their contract. I'm a little surprised that they're going to have a show be free on the app though, but I guess to continue protecting and rising up Knowles, they'll do that. But I think they're going to also put it on. He is on Rumble. They're going to put it on Twitter as well. And so it's a good thing Elon Musk bought Twitter, man. It is such a good thing that he bought that app. But YouTube is a different animal. So I wish that they valued our conversations more. I know that he's a bit of a prickly person, but I don't know. I think all people, when they see stuff like that happen, as far as like quick demonetization and stuff, that they get concerned about how much these big corporations or whatever care about the people who put out content and make them the platform that they are. So the question is, was Steven Crowder right about Daily Wire and the tactics and stuff that they had, and that they shouldn't punish people in the well, again, they'll just say it wasn't a contract and it wasn't terms. I thought that Steven kind of overreacted and stuff. You can go watch my full video about it, but they're well aware that big tech doesn't love all their views, and they have to try to worm their way around it, and they get penalized and stuff too. They say they're the arm of big tech, but Steven Crowder has connections to big tech and stuff as well, and has drew himself back with certain things that they told him to do. And I'm sure that Daily Wire has, like, if I got in trouble or something, I don't have a way to contact YouTube that's different than everybody else. I'm sure they have a more appropriate means to get connected to advocate their case. So I wonder what was all the big escalation to this point where he's just totally demonetized. It's not like Matt is saying stuff now suddenly that's not that's more pricklier than stuff he said before. But according to, I can't remember who, I think it was maybe Jeremy who claimed that it was something about Dylan Mulvaney, but it was kind of vague. So that's too bad. That's too bad. Anyway, if you like black tea, make sure that you support black tea and you follow me in other places. Someone said they like my shirt. Thank you. It's on my website. I didn't get to that. You can go get different merch on my website, including this shirt. So that's another way you guys can support. I got a couple different shirts on my website. Also, my book, Of Course God Blatantly Gets Abortion, is available for pre-order. So if you guys are interested in that, please go ahead and pre-order that for ebook. And otherwise, you can get a paperback version when it comes out on the day, but I'm very excited for you guys to read that. Otherwise, I do have nonfiction. No, sorry, that's a nonfiction book. I do have plenty of fiction books that I've written, and so here's me with a bunch of my books. So anyway, let's jump into it. So first thing I want to tackle is this Budweiser story. So I think everyone pretty much knows that they had Dylan Mulvaney. They did a sponsorship with him on TikTok. Now, Dylan has like over 10 million followers, last I looked. And so, I don't know how much they paid him for that, but it's probably like a lot of money. Because other people, brands will pay like small accounts, like maybe like a few $100s for different ads. So to have a big account that has like 10 million followers, that's a lot of money. So they even gave him a cam with his face on it and stuff. So he did, some stuff that was, the one in the bathroom was really weird. Talking about the one with the March Madness, like, I don't know what that means. And so it was just a really odd commercial. I did a video about that as well. So if you guys want to go back and check that out. But there was a ton of backlash. You had vendors who were saying I get paid when people buy this beer. People are not buying this beer. There are people who I knew in like the political sphere. I was like at a committee to like plan a pretty big party, and they're like, no Budweiser. and I'm like entrenched in the cultural war stuff, paying attention to it, but everybody else like who's there, I'm like, I'm surprised this many people like are aware. So this is like transcended into like normal news as opposed to just like Twitter, TikTok news. And so you had different people who said they're not going to have it at their bars. John Rich was like, I gave it a week to see what my customers wanted, and they are not touching this beer, so we're just not going to reorder. Kid Rock didn't want it at his places either. There was a country singer who like changed the lyrics to one of his songs, and the crowd was like, happy. He was like in a concert or something. So people all over the place are saying that they're not getting it, and people in bars, own bars, go to bars, whatever, are saying that people aren't getting it, and vendors are saying people aren't buying it, and they're taking a hit. And so the other day, a friend of mine told me, like, have you seen this commercial that they put out? And then I'm like, no, I didn't see the commercial, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the commercial that Budweiser put out. And it's a cleanup job for sure. It's a cleanup job for sure. Damage control, but I might be a little too late. It might not be too late, like forever though. We'll see.
Let me tell you a story about a beer rooted in the heart of America, found in a community where a handshake is a sure contract, brewed for those who found opportunity in challenge and hope in tomorrow, raised by generations willing to sip, share, risk, remember. This is a story bigger than beer. This is the story of the American spirit.
So, yeah, that's the sponsored ad that came across my Twitter page. Again, like I'm not the target market or whatever, because I don't drink at all. Never had drugs at all, smoking, alcohol. So that was not a wasted ad, because you're here all watching it with me. So someone did a parody. It was like, this is the real ad. So usually if this is the first time you're watching live, I do usually like to start with something kind of humorous or meme or something. So here's a parody of that commercial that we just watched.
My name is Prancer. I identify as a reindeer. This ad is what we call damage control. Our thinking is, maybe if we post an ad with our iconic Clydesdale that identifies as a reindeer, and we say vaguely patriotic things,
This is the story of the American spirit.
people will like us again.
Incidentally, I used to have a deep, rich baritone voice. Then I started drinking Bud Light.
It changes you. Look at these two typical American firemen. We can't put two white people together in an ad. We still have to virtue signal a little. I mean, we're still woke. We're just not that woke. Here's another couple of people, also two different races. I mean, honestly, what we really need to do is just say, we f***ed up. But we all know that's not gonna happen. So just look at the pretty horse that identifies as a reindeer and drink Budweiser again. If you don't, they said they're taking me to the glue factory. Look, there's two more dudes. Is that guy white? Is he Hispanic? Nobody knows. He's what we call ethnically ambiguous, our favorite race of all. This white guy gets it. So remember, folks, at Budweiser, we'll always be a little woke. This Bud's not for you. You know, maybe cutting my tail off was a mistake. What do you guys think? Well, it's too late now. No coming back from that. Gillette.
So, I'm not sure who made it, because they didn't do a little thing at the end, and someone had posted on Twitter. So, yep, that was called damage control, which, you know, advertising companies do when they, you know, mess up and they need to rebrand and whatnot. So, there have been people on the right who have been like, back off, it's a good American company, but they're also big donors. So that's another thing too. So you had, hearing folks at the RNC, in our SC, in our this National Committee, in it's the one word, it's the Senate. They do stuff for the Senate. So I heard that they wanted people to back off. There was Don Jr. who, wanted people to back off of Budweiser and stuff. So they did issue I was going to say apology, but even like doing air quotes, that it's not even appropriate to call it an apology. It was like a nothing burger statement saying, we just never meant to cause division. Let me see. I don't think I have it saved right now. I did show it to you guys before, but yeah, it wasn't a hey, we made a boo boo with this, and I don't expect them to do that, to throw the trans community on the bus and be like, we made a mistake and gender identity is evil. I don't think Budweiser is going to do that. So I guess to the people who are deciding to not buy the beer, because I mean I wasn't buying it anyway, what would make you forgive them? Would it take a total like admission of only men are men and women are women? Is that what it would take for you to come back to them? Because people on the left, you know, some of them saw that statement out and they're like, oh, they're bowing, they're caving to the mob. Now, if you read it, you know, I think it was their way of saying we made a mistake, but without actually coming out and saying that they did. So it's people not buying their stuff in bars, people not buying their stuff in grocery stores. If people aren't buying them at concerts and different tours, like, I don't know if this particular, I won't say which artist because I'm not sure if they had an opinion or whatever on it or not, but she was explaining, so my sister was explaining for a particular like tour thing that they do and how much that people buy these huge cans of like, there's these huge cans of beer that people get and they'll buy like bags of it at these concerts where there's like 50,000 people at each one and stuff. So there's a lot of money on the table that they've just like royally screwed up on. So you know, I don't think someone maybe high up at Budweiser, I don't know, it could have been someone high up at Budweiser like, oh yeah, let's get them to this ad. But like I said, Dylan has a huge following, but he so them wanting those eyeballs is one thing, especially when they want like, you know, ads on like TikTok and stuff. So usually you'll get someone to do a sponsored sort of post. That's what these people do, these companies do. But he wasn't the target person that you would have for something like that. So it was just wild, guys. But people in the comments are still ratioing it. Let me just leave you with this post that someone put under the Budweiser commercial video. It's just like LOL, okay. Just it was just the perfect little still for people's attitudes about it, like, okay, yeah, you tried, but it's not working. We don't care. We don't care. So anyway, let's go on and talk about this Michael Knowles debate with Brad Polumbo. So they had a debate the other day. Michael was supposed to have it with someone else, some professor, but they backed out. So Brad came in last minute, and apparently they paid him a lot of money. At least, you know, according to him answering a question, there was like some kind of anti-capitalist person in the audience was like, how much did they spend to get you in? He's just like, a lot. And you know, the crowd like clapped and stuff. So Brad, you know, he's a libertarian type person, and he runs like base politics, and I've seen some stuff of his that I like, but normally when he pops up sort of in my feed or something, it's I don't know, some kind of take that I'm like, bro, really? So when Matt Walsh had his rant with Dylan, he went off and went like super viral, and people were like, it's too mean. Brad was one of those people who were like, this is cruel and this is mean, and there's other ways that you can say things and be civil but not attack their personhood or their person. And other people are like, this is a question of like of actual like their identity and stuff. So if we're going to debate these things, how can it not get personal at all? And so so he's just on the don't be too mean camp. So with the debate with him and Knowles, he thinks Knowles is enough, you know, I don't know, is just too much. He wants to impose government authority too much with this stuff, and Knowles is like, your position is totally incoherent. At least people who we think are like really, really left wing with their spectrum with gender identity, and they're like, no, boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and if they're young, they can transition because that's who they really are. And he's like, at least there's some consistency there. But your position is, well, I don't really believe it, but it's okay that they do, and there's just sort of middle ground murkiness. So as Michael was giving like the opening statement, he mentioned that Brad thought that it was okay for trans women to go in a women's bathroom, and I'm like, hold up. So at that point, I was waiting in the debate for that to come up and for him to justify that position, and they did talk about it. So we're definitely going to talk about that. I have Brad's opening statement, so I'm going to go ahead and play that. I don't have Michael's because the clips that I saw were kind of long, and but if you're familiar with Michael, you can kind of maybe guess sort of things he was going to say. But the things that I just addressed that he did say in his opening statement. So here's Brad's opening.
The debate we're having here tonight really fundamentally comes down to what kind of a society we want America to be. Do we want to be a pluralistic and classically liberal society where people of different beliefs and values can live side by side? Or do we want to fight in an ever intensifying struggle, a tug of war over the state, to be used to crush minority viewpoints and force conformity, force people to live how others see fit? I know which one I would like. I would humbly suggest that the viewpoint of those conservatives who wish to regulate transgenderism out of existence is incompatible with that fundamental view of America as a place where each person can chart their own way in life as long as they're not hurting anybody else. I also would just reiterate that it's remarkably short-sighted. 30% of America identifies as socially conservative. If you guys really don't want to leave space for different lifestyles, for unpopular viewpoints, that is not going to go well in a democratic society. So if this newfound flavor of authoritarian-style conservatism gets its wishes, it won't just be betraying some of the principles that make America great, it will be setting the stage for its own destruction, and frankly, that destruction will be deserved. Thank you.
So Michael did push back on the idea that we're going to be basically, if we have these firm positions, that we're going to just make ourselves extinct. Because he's like, when it comes to the transgender or the gender identity stuff, most people are on his side. And Brad was like, well, most people aren't like on like super radical. Like they believe that they should have trans rights, but you got to look at polls and see the kind of questions that people ask, you know. So it goes a little deeper than that. But so it depends what ideas that you think are conservative. But even if someone doesn't identify with a conservative, with being conservative, or doesn't mean that they don't agree with conservatives on stuff and wouldn't side with them on a lot of different issues. So you got to take it issue to issue. But also, I mean, he ended up bringing up Tudor Dixon, who's ran against my governor right now. So Tudor Dixon had he brought up abortion. And he brought up how Tudor's position was like no exceptions, which she has exceptions for life with a mother. But he talked about how radical that was. Then Gretchen Whitmer just like, you know, totally, you know, was dominant with like double-digit win. And he's like, you could have had, you know, a governor who could have protected life with not like at least 98% of the time, and now you have this really radical governor. And he talked about the commercials, and the commercials were like awful nonstop, but they had on like Tudor Dixon and stuff. There's a lot of factors that played into it, and the Prop 3 bill that passed, that I talked a lot about it at the time, going through the election, cut several videos for it. I made ads for it, all kinds of stuff trying to stop it. But the messaging and the ballot itself, even the language on the ballot itself, was very misleading. And I knew just from what was phrased on the ballot, I'm like, if people aren't educated about it before they go to the poll, this is going to pass. So there's a bunch of different factors in the Michigan election to just be like, oh, Tudor was radical, that's why she lost. Though they did play a ton of those videos. But it's also hard to beat an incumbent governor. There was a special loophole that our governor used to be able to raise like money with no caps on it. So she had a ton of money as well, and people were just hoping that there'd be more punishment about the pandemic and how our governor was particularly tyrannical about it. But not everybody. I think people need to realize this. Not everyone experienced the pandemic in the same way. Like maybe you lost your business. Someone else got to stay home and collected a bunch of money, you know, on unemployment, you know, and got their checks from the government, you know. So not everybody experienced it the same. Like you were worried about like putting food on your table for your kids, and somebody else was going to the Nike store. And I say Nike because I know the local one. They every day was like Black Friday for them. So, and stores like it. So not everyone had a bad experience during the pandemic. And I was talking to a relative, and I was laying out all the dumb policies or whatever that she did that didn't make any sense, which in hindsight she like recognize it and make sense. And then my aunt was just like, what did you want her to do? And I'm like, I just laid out all these dumb things that she did. Like, I wanted her to follow the science. I wanted her to not exercise all of these, authoritative rules and that wouldn't even protect us. I wanted her to err on the side of liberty and caution, but caution that made sense and that was justifiable. But we are a blue state. We just are. It sucks. And then they also got kids to vote in mass and stuff. So there's so many different things that played into that election. But as far as the abortion issue or whatever, stuff is either right or it's wrong. And the people who actually run for office, they have to run to win. They have to run to represent their constituents. I think they should run on what's right and what's good. But commentators like Michael Knowles or commentators like me or commentators like Brad or activists and stuff, our job is to try to convince other people to the right sort of path, the rest of the days out the year. There's election day, but what about all the other days? So if we can just concede ground and let things get worse and worse and worse, but we'll just get pulled to the point where it's up to 9 months, which is, basically what it is in Michigan now and in some other places. Or we could continue to make our case and try to move people to more reasonable positions, and abolishment if that's what you want. But so saying, you guys are going to just push yourself out of existence, whether it's this or whether it's a transgender issue or the transgenderism or gender identity, I'll say instead. Maybe that's something a politician runs on or doesn't run on, but why shouldn't commentators and debaters and thinkers, thought leaders or whoever talk about these issues, So, but I guess Brad's not against talking. So he'll take issue with the sort of how we talk or whatever, I guess, since he came after not Knowles, but Walsh. But here's the thing that's incoherent to me, because he's big on the government shouldn't be mandating stuff or legislating stuff, which, by the way, there once upon a time, this was not a conversation, that people were having, that people were obsessing with. It's another day, another thing, got to talk about this again. It's this wasn't something that was on people's minds, and people were concerned, about all these people coming to the bathroom or whatever. It wasn't really a thing. And it became a big national story because there was an ordinance in Charlotte, saying that you could use whatever bathroom, and then bigger government responded to kind of shut down that ordinance, and then there was all these boycotts and stuff from major corporations or whatever in response to the government acting, but the government acted because there was an ordinance. So it could have been everybody just mind your business, everybody go pee and poop wherever you're it's segregated or whatever. And if you could pass, now I don't want you in my bathroom, don't get me wrong, but most people, if they could pass, they would just go in and out, or just use a single sex bathroom or hold it or whatever. But this wasn't a topic for national conversation until then. So the gender activists are the ones who shot first, right? They're the ones who started it. And then there was a retaliation, and then there was a big cultural retaliation after that. So that's how it really started. So this happened when Obama was president. So on top of that, there was also Obama, and his administration did some kind of ruling or rule change or something. It might have been the Title IX or something that said that you have to let trans people use whatever locker room or whatever they wanted. And there was a story in Illinois about this kid who's a boy who wanted to go in the girls' locker room, and then he had to be they had to sue and all this other kind of stuff. But that was a pretty big story, as they were pushing that agenda. So that Obama and them, they were doing it, which a lot of people from the Biden administration were people just, from the Obama administration, like Jen Psaki was a former person there too, but they're the ones who are pushing it, and I remember reading up on the story, and it was like they tried to make accommodations for them, but he didn't want accommodations in his own space because he still felt singled out. He wanted to be in the girls' locker room. So sometimes I hear people say like they just need a different space or they just need their own sports team. Maybe some people like really want that and are cool with that, but there are some people who are these like crazy activists who just believe that if you think I'm a woman, then you should just accept me in your space, and I'm coming in your space. I saw this crazy video today where someone was like violent, like promising violence if he doesn't get allowed in the bathroom. I'll show that to you if I got some time, but anyway, let's move on to the bathroom thing because it was brought up, and this is where like stuff doesn't make sense to me for him.
I believe there's two biological sexes. They are immutable, but there's a lot that we attach to gender that is social. And if someone like Blair White, who I consider an acquaintance and am friendly with, if she wants to live as a woman, have surgery as she has, if that's what will make her happy, and she struggled with deep depression and mental issues, and then that helped, why would I object to that? And moreover, why would I embrace some sort of one-size-fits-all government approach that would legally force somebody with C-cup tits to use the men's room and the boys' locker room? It doesn't make any sense.
I think the more concern you have for women, the less you should use the word tits on the stage. I mean it.
So she was firm with that, man. I wouldn't have got that triggered from the word tits, but people were really complimenting the moderator. They really liked her in the debate. But okay, so here's the thing about, so people should be able, he's like, people should be able to do what they want, you know, especially adults. Like, he doesn't believe you should trans the kids and stuff, at least not like chemical or whatever. So adults should be able to go out there, do whatever, transition, have surgeries, hormones, and whatnot. And if they should be able to go in whatever bathroom they want. And it's dumb, you know, someone with C-cup tits for them to make them go into the men's room. And he had mentioned like Blair White. Now, those are not natural titties. Blair bought those titties, you know? So whose fault is it that Blair has titties? That's not my problem. It's not my problem. Like, if you make conscious decisions and you make choices and you're like, this is what's going to make me happy, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's a choice that you have made. But it doesn't give you a shield that if you walk into a woman's bathroom and they're like, you don't belong here, that you can go, but I got the tits. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Or it's not how it should work. So Michael kept saying that either we have sex segregated spaces or we don't. Either we have sex segregated spaces or we don't. So if it's a matter of someone passes enough so they can go in, then it's just not about being sex segregated spaces or women being able to have their own space. It's just a matter of if you can pass enough, like being a woman is just a cosmetic thing enough that it's not my problem that someone bought their tits. It's you know that they didn't occur naturally in the wild. So if that's the route you want to go, you got to know that it's not everyone's problem to deal with. So I said the other day in a video, I'm like, if some people are like, just build a third bathroom. It's expensive to take up space and do all that kind of stuff. You know, if people just want to have the two bathrooms, that it's male and female bathroom, then people who start doing stuff to their bodies, go to the men's room. Like, don't imposition the women like that. Go to the men's room. You know, if you're born a man and you transition, or at least try to, you're still a man. Especially if you still have a penis, go in the men's room. And if you say, well, there's a safety concern there, or they're concerned, well, imagine how women feel. However you might feel might be how other women feel about you being in their space. So have some compassion and own the choices that you have made. It's not everyone else's fault. And don't want to sound too tough. I guess I don't care how I sound. Like, that's your decision. So him saying that he doesn't think the government should, and he thinks it's dumb that people would, that someone would tits or whatever, someone like Blair, the idea of him going into a men's room when he could pass for a woman, and doesn't matter. He should still go in the men's room. So still go in the men's room. But as far as what the government can do, or should do, or what private businesses do, they talked about that a bit. So let me play that clip, because Michael did question him on it. Michael did question on it.
I wonder, Brad, if you see the irony in insisting upon your view of society, which is the view that says we can't have standards and we can't use the government and society to impose rules. Because my preferred society is the society in America that we've had pretty much for our nation's history, and it's the view that says that we can set standards and women can have bathrooms and we can just have norms and we can behave in a normal way. And what you're saying is, Michael, that's authoritarian, and so I, the great liberator, I am going to insist that none of you have those standards and those norms.
No, you can have those standards in your community, in your church, in your school, in your business. What you can't do is tell the rest of the world how to live.
You just said I can have it in my community.
Yes.
Okay, so we can have it in my community, but not in someone else's community.
As in your community in terms of a private community setting.
There's no private community.
What
the
is your
public.
What is your church? Your church is a community.
But my community is Nashville, Tennessee.
All right,
my
well,
state
that's
is
your
Tennessee.
city,
My country is
and I don't
America.
think your city can declare one correct view of the truth for all its residents. I mean, there's plenty of countries you could live in that do those kinds of things.
But all states are like that, because all states have laws and they declare certain things true and others false, and some licit and some illicit. That's what statecraft is.
But that's typically done where the intersection of rights occurs, where one person's right to swing their fist ends where another person's face begins. Not when it comes to questions of individual beliefs being policed by the state.
Like who gets to go into a bathroom?
Well, who owns the bathroom? They can make the rule. You don't own the bathroom.
What about the government?
What
about the military bathrooms and the school bathrooms?
The military, it can have its policies about.
But that's the government. So what's the government going to say?
So he mentioned people policing individual beliefs, but beliefs are ideas that you have in your head. But when you know, and you can go ahead again and transition, have surgery, or hormones away. Oops, sorry. But if you continue to, hold on a second, I think hello? Okay. Testing, 1, 2, can you guys still hear me? I think you can still hear me. I think my audio just switched to my laptop instead. You can still hear me? Okay. So, but when you decide to take your ideas and how you're living and you're imposing upon other people, like if you want to live as a woman, how you socially feel that a woman should live, because he did say that gender is more than just, he believes that there's two sexes, like I said, it's binary, but if you, but there's some things that are social about being a woman. I'm curious what he thinks those things are, what he would define as social things about being a woman. But if you want to live that way, like if you are like, I'm going to wear this dress that I like and do this, etc., okay. But when it's like, but I want to go into your locker room, or I want to go into your bathroom, or I want to play on your sports team, that's not you living that's not you and your ideas. That's you acting them out, and you're imposing upon other people. And now we have to debate a battle of ideas, and somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And I've said this many times, I don't see why it's women who have to lose in these situations. And someone said in the comments earlier, like, it's with the bathroom thing, oh, it's not a security concern. Like, there's people who follow me, or people who I follow and I like, that, you know, are trans, and but if they came in my bathroom, I'd be like, you don't belong here. And it wouldn't be because I think that they're gonna do something to me physically. That's not even why I'd want them out. I'm not saying there's not people who's trying to get access to the bathrooms who aren't, you know, heinous. I think most situations that probably wouldn't happen. It's just kind of more of a principle thing. Like, you're not a woman. You don't belong here. We deserve single sex spaces, and I'm not entertaining this, because I think it's bigger than you coming in and using the bathroom for one time. I think it's a lot bigger than that. But I think we got to stand on some things on principle, like William Thomas, who was on the swim team, and he was in an interview, and they're like, well, all these girls on your team say that they support you, and that you're, they believe that you're a woman, they support you on your journey, but they just don't think you should be able to play. And Thomas was like, if they think I'm a woman, why can't I play sports? And I've seen other people say that. And if you believe that they are, and they're acting out in that way, why wouldn't you let them go all the way then, if you think that they're the same? Because they're not. And we all know that they're not. So, again, you can dress how you want, and do your hair how you want, and put on makeup and other stuff. And, you know, people are doing surgeries and hormones or whatever, but it still doesn't change what the world is. And Brad kept saying that the government shouldn't be the arbiter of truth. I'm like, well, the government doesn't determine truth, but don't we expect the government to acknowledge truth and abide by it? I mean, there's a reason. I mean, aren't some truths self-evident? Now, the government doesn't always uphold certain truths that we look to be self-evident, like all men being created equal and stuff. But we expect them to honor certain truths and then act on it, and make laws and certain things around that, and protecting certain liberties. And if certain liberties we believe that women have is that them having their own sports and them having their own sex segregated spaces, then why wouldn't they make sure that we can continue to do that? And he said that, oh, you know, your community, your church, you can have whatever bathroom policy you want. Okay, but what happens when it's a federal building? So that's the government. So we want our representatives or whoever to make sure that that is appropriately handled, and that is going to take our voice, right? When it's like some kind of city building or some kind of federal building or something, that is going to be reflective of what the people say. If it's a private business, you know, they can do what they want. Like Target, you know, you can do whatever in the bathroom, and which I don't understand, because all Targets, I don't know if all Targets, but I used to work at Target, I didn't love it, but there is a third bathroom for like a single person to go into. And if I could go in there, I would much rather just be alone in the bathroom. So I think most Targets have that third kind of bigger bathroom, like the family or, you know, space kind of bathroom size, that has like one toilet in there and a locked door. So did they need to say, yeah, men can go in the women's bathroom, or trans people can go in each other's bathrooms? They didn't need to do that. But that caused a big, you know, hoopla about that. But I guess people still shop at Target. I hated Target. But someone's got to make these rules. And is it a question of you just don't like the government imposing these rules, because they gotta make some decisions someplace sometime. Like if you go into your something that's owned by the city, you know, is Blair going to be able to use the women's restroom if that's what Blair wants? Who makes those decisions? That's going to be something I think the people weigh in on. Again, private businesses can do what they please, but that doesn't mean that people can't voice their concerns or protest or boycott if they make decisions that everyone else doesn't like. So I'm curious if it's really like just people, the government shouldn't get involved, or is it also that you personally feel like people should, chill about their attitudes about it? I mean, because he did say it was dumb about the Blair, like, tits going in the bathroom, and I can understand you feeling that the government shouldn't say you don't belong here, but what happens when women get together and are like, we don't want a trans woman in our bathroom? Who stands up for that in that situation? Or if they were like, we're going to boycott or picket or protest or whatever, or, make it a very unpleasant experience, how would you feel about those women who stood up who stood up for that? Or against that, whatever. How would you feel about that? Because some people who are like not conservative and have kind of more libertarian views, it's not that they just don't want the government involved. They don't want you to morally condemn people either. They're like, it's people's business. It's their business. Just leave them alone. Why do you have to comment on their morality or who they sleep around with or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you can't even you don't even want people to speak about it at all. Like, we're just not allowed. Like, why are you judging other people? It's their lives. It's like, we're all allowed freedom of speech. Like, so you just want, like, no kind of conversation. Because he kept saying that we can't, like, ban speech or get too authoritative, because you want to be able to have, a battle of ideas. But to me, it seems like Brad has bad ideas, and that's a big problem for me. I think he genuinely has bad ideas probably on this issue. If you really don't think that women should have spaces that are designated for them. So I can respect to a degree, just a little degree, about not wanting the government involved in certain stuff, or them to go too far. But again, this all started with the activists pressing, and then us, pushing back. So I don't think there's like a neutral ground there. So I think at the very least we can acknowledge and respect truth and stand up for truth. And truth kept being mentioned, but Brad just kind of like didn't want to kind of go with truth, or push like that's the goal that we have to push toward, protecting the truth and acknowledging the truth. He did say he believed in the two sexes and stuff, but again, he said the gender social thing, which is so weird. Like, I was talking to my sister the other day about the article that I put out on cisgender being a slur, and I'm like, people want to pretend like sex is so different than gender, and it's not. They've been used interchangeably and stuff, like the etymology of the word, but they'll say that it's certain characteristics that are still like involved in like the perception of a woman, but it's not just that, and it's other things too. But it's like, but our bodies and the certain things that our bodies do shape so many of our experiences. And I started talking to my sister, and sorry if this is gross to the men out there, but I'm like, how much time do you spend thinking about your period? Like, like planning a vacation, like, oh gosh, I can't wear a swimsuit this day, or I'm gonna have to, I don't like tampons, but I'm gonna have to buy one this day if I want to get in the hot tub, or oh my gosh, I'm gonna feel like crap this day and that day. I get like pre-cramps, so I don't need to keep a calendar. I mean, unless I want to think of, like, plan ahead in the future for it, but my body will tell me when I'm about to come on. like warning, danger, Will Robinson. So once the pain kind of starts, I know like it's about to hit. But and then like all that time you spend while being uncomfortable, if you have mood swings or whatever, I don't really have mood swings or whatever. I might at times be a little more irritated, but like fits of crying and stuff like that. I've never had anything like that on my period, but pain, like you could be just driving and all of a sudden it feels like someone stabbed you like with a knife. It's awful. It's awful. So there's so much of our biology that plays into our world and our experiences, and it's you know, I don't know what you mean by social. I could guess some things, but I think that a lot of things would just be stereotypical that could also fit in other sort of ways to men or effeminate men, not necessarily trans men. So I'd like to see him clarify. I'd like to see him clarify that. So I'm trying to think, was there anything else? I just watched it, so it was, well, I watched it like I guess an hour or two ago now, but yeah, I guess that's the, well, oh gosh, they did have a conversation about Michael Knowles apparently said that at one point that he thought Dylan Mulvaney should be institutionalized, so they were talking about that for a minute, and I didn't hear him say that. I don't think I think there's something not right with Dylan, but I don't like to the point of being like going in an insane asylum or something, you know, being like held against his will. It's not like that, you know. He's clever enough to know what he's doing, you know. He's disturbed, but his faculties are there, you know. I don't think he's a danger to anybody. So if he said that, I'm like, I don't think so. But Brad, as they were talking about the mental health situation, though, there's some things that just didn't make sense because they're like, because they would compare other stuff. So Michael brought up that there's other sort of body conditions that people have, like if you feel like your limb doesn't belong, you can't go to the doctor will cut off your arm because you feel like you don't want an arm. And so Brad said no self-respecting doctor would just do that. And so I was so glad that Michael brought up that there are doctors who will cut off the breast of young ladies. So you can't say that there aren't doctors willing to chop off people's body parts to make them feel better. Like, I thought that was a weird claim, like obviously not true claim that he made. And I was glad that Michael like brought that back up because, you know, Chloe Cole, for example, you know, she is very upset about, she had a double mastectomy as a minor and her parents did agree to it. But the reason that they agreed to it is because, you know, I don't know how deep they were in on it, but obviously they're pretty deep, but like in the ideology, but people were telling her parents, if you don't do this, she's gonna self-harm. So it was another thing that was brought up. They're saying, well, would people, you don't institutionalize or hold someone against their will or whatever unless they're like a danger to someone else or they're a danger to themselves. And I'm like, isn't that, I'm not advocating this, but I'm just listening to their arguments. I'm like, okay, but that is the pitch though, right? That they have to be affirmed or they're going to self-harm. And there's so many parents who are afraid that their child will self-harm, and that's why they affirm so strongly, because that's what they are told. And if you don't agree or whatever, you are told that you are killing the trans kids. So because I guess they will go commit harm to themselves. So that didn't make sense. Like if the argument is that you institutionalize or whatever people because they're a danger to themselves, that's the claim as a whole, that the community is a danger to themselves, which I think that people should really, really, really stop pushing the unalive narrative well, it's just awful anyway, but it's kind of giving, what happens when you give that expectation? Like, that's just the thing that they do. Like, when you're emotionally blackmailing the parents and everyone else into compliance as a society to accept the ideology, but it's not a good thing to give these kids this expectation of constant self-terror, I guess, that they would do this to themselves, and it would be like a practically normal thing that they would do given their position, their condition, and at the same time it's other people's fault as well because they didn't affirm. So having that scapegoat of it being someone else's fault if they do that to themselves. So it's really sick to me how people push it, and I wish people would stop, and I hope that they stop, but people love the hysteria language because it makes people hysterical and it furthers their agendas, and it's messed up. It's messed up. So that was an interesting part of the debate. But Brad didn't think that kids should transition, and he as they were having conversation about ages of maturity, he didn't have like a good date for himself to nail down, but he just said the date should be consistent about when we consider maturity. So I don't know, he seemed so determined to not have government interference that he didn't seem to have good positions, I guess, on the subjects and the topics. So interesting debate, though, if you want to go ahead and watch it. So yeah, those are the highlights and some of my thoughts. I guess I will share more later if I have them. Last thing I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and move on, is this, I'm sure you guys probably heard about the shooting of the 16-year-old who knocked on an 84-year-old man's door, and he rang the doorbell, and then according to the young boy who was shot, he rang the doorbell and was immediately shot. And that's not the story of the home owner, but there's a narrative. Like, I'm really, as I was listening to the story, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they're like, he's alive. I'm like, oh, I was relieved. I was really relieved that this kid, lived. I don't know much about him other than, people said that he was a pretty good kid, he was on honor roll or whatever. But just the idea of going to someone's house and he was looking for a sibling or something, trying to pick them up, and went to the wrong house, or that's the story. And to be shot, that's awful. What about, I don't know, people doing delivery and they go to the wrong house? You just don't want to ever be in a situation like that, or fear that your kids are in a situation like that. People have turned it into, it's a terrible story, and the man was arrested, FYI. They're taking it and exploiting it into this big political narrative, and race is one of the narratives as well, and it's weird, very weird. We can't just have a story and be like, yeah, that's awful, and move on. They're really using it. So there was a story on CNN. They interviewed the kid's the man's grandchild, and he said that his grandfather was racist, and the reasoning that he gave wasn't great. So I want to play this video because it's kind of wild.
Grandfather is racist?
I believe he holds racist tendencies and beliefs.
Why do you say that?
He's just a stock American Christian male. It's older, that's just how they are. It's the conspiracies and weird random racist things they say out sound, and it doesn't make sense, but they're just scared.
So let me go back a little second. I think he just said Christian old male.
Older, that's just how they are. He's just a stock American Christian male. It's older.
He didn't even say white. Oh my, he just an older American Christian male. That's all. Oh my gosh. So older, again, just one more time.
He's just a stock American Christian male. It's older, you know, that's just how they are. It's the conspiracies and weird random racist things they say out sound, and it doesn't make sense, but they're just scared.
So maybe his maybe he is, and maybe he says like off-color remarks or insensitive stuff, or has whatever beliefs, and that doesn't mean that this was done out of racial intent or whatever. When he says conspiracies, he might have or might not have. There's a ton of people who believe conspiracies who are dangerous, but he might just mean I don't know what conspiracies he's referencing. I mean, there's deep, crazy, like QAnon kind of conspiracies, and there's like, you know, fun ones like birds aren't real. But to start it off with, he's just an older Christian American man. So that would qualify like my dad, like an older American Christian male, and you know, that's just how they are. They're just racist. That's okay. Let's now Don Lemon actually even checks him. Don Lemon checks him.
Now, listen, you're generalizing a lot here about, you said older Christian white males, but what do you mean by that? What do you mean they're scared? Talk to me more, please.
Yeah, it's just I feel like a lot of people of that generation are caught up in this 24-hour news cycle of fear and paranoia perpetuated by some other news stations, and he was fully into that, sit and watch Fox News all day, every day, blaring in his living room. And I think that stuff really kind of reinforces this negative view of minority groups, and leads people to be it doesn't necessarily lead people to be racist, but it reinforces and galvanizes racist people and their beliefs. So,
I mean, Fox News does play, especially during election time, a lot of videos of crime. There's some crazy crime going on right now, and some really violent stuff. I saw some, they're stabbing people in broad daylight in some places, like in New York, and I saw one awful video. It just kind of wrecked me. It was terrible. But, excuse me. Seeing stuff like that all the time, and having a stranger come to your door, and if you thought they were trying to break in or something, and you know, I think he's gonna, unless there's some other stuff that comes out, he's gonna be, I don't think they're gonna feel that it was raised to the threat level that justified him shooting someone through the door and nearly killing them, shooting them in the head. I think he's gonna, you know, go to jail for what's left of his you know, life. But he's 84. He probably doesn't have that much time left on this world. But there are people who come to the door and do crazy stuff or try to break in. Will break, you know. So it's not unreasonable for people to be afraid when something happens at the door, but what happened wasn't, at least from the facts that I know or what I've read about it, I don't think, I think he's gonna get convicted. But you know, there's people like his Ralph Yarl, the young man, his classmates like came out, like protested. They skipped class protests, which kids will do just about anything to get out of class. But I'm like, what for? He's been arrested. You know, what's the end goal here? Like, if it's about guns, like, do you just want to confiscate guns from like old veterans. I don't know how you like, he has no like prior criminal history that I'm familiar with. So I like, what's the goal? The gun goal here, just to confiscate guns? Because I don't know what would have prevented what happened other than him making better decisions himself. I don't know what sort of gun control measure would have stopped this from the facts that we know. But here's a local paper from another relative speaking on this matter. This is the Kansas City Star. A veteran airplane mechanic, what we know about Andrew Lester, and a man who shot Yarl. Hold on, I gotta zoom in on this article so I can read more. The elderly man who shot a teenager in Kansas City's Northland last week, sparking a national conversation on race and guns, is a military veteran who once worked as an airline mechanic. Little is known publicly about Andrew D. Lester, 84, the white man who is accused of firing 2 shots into a 16-year-old Ralph Yarl, who is black, after police say the teen rang his doorbell Thursday. Lester has been charged with first-degree assault and armed criminal action. The teenager, an honors student at Stately High School, accidentally went to the wrong house while trying to pick up his younger brothers and was shot twice, including in the head. The shooting, a local civil rights leader said, again showed Missouri is one of the most unsafe places for black people in America. Lester, who has no known criminal history, appears to have mostly kept to himself in his neighborhood in the 1011th block of Northeast 115th Street, but his home, which has since been egged and tagged with spray paint, has become a focal point for advocates calling for racial justice. Again, he's been arrested. Why are you guys going out and committing crime and vandalizing property? The man has been arrested. This doesn't make any sense. A relative of Lester's said he thinks characterizing the shooting as a hate crime is inaccurate. Daniel Ludwig, 30, a Kansas City man who says he is Lester's grandson, so he's a different grandson than the one we just saw, said he did not believe race played a role in the shooting. He appears to be the first of Lester's relatives to comment on the shooting. It's just sad and I wish it didn't happen, Ludwig told the Star. It seems like a bunch of mistakes in a row that resulted in a tragedy. I mean, a lot of mistakes all the way around. Unfortunately, Ludwig believed his grandfather would not have fired had Yarl not gone for the door. It was clear, he said, that the shooting did not unfold for no reason. If you look at the affidavit, there were actions taken that caused it, he said, later adding, my grandpa's side isn't being reported. Yarl, however, told police he was immediately shot after simply ringing the doorbell. Lee Merritt, a civil rights attorney representing the Yarl family, said Yarl never put his hand on Lester's door and did not try to enter the home. Mind you, touching the door in on of itself wouldn't be enough to justify the use of deadly force, he said. Wednesday, Ralph rang the doorbell and waited quietly outside until the door was open. Earlier this week, Clay County prosecuting attorney Zachary Thompson said there was a racial component to the shooting, though he did not elaborate. Civil rights and faith leaders have called for Lester to additionally face federal hate crime charges. Lester told detectives he was scared to death when he shot Yarl, saying he saw him pulling on the exterior storm door handle and assumed he was breaking in. Lester said he was protecting himself. He was visibly upset, police wrote. In a repeatedly expressed concern for the victim, Lester acknowledged he opened fire within a few seconds of seeing Yarl on his doorstep. After the shooting, Lester said he immediately called 911. Officers found him standing inside the house behind a shattered glass storm door, which was locked. Yarl, however, said he rang the doorbell and was immediately shot in the head. He fell to the ground, then was shot in the arm. Lester told him, "Don't come around here," according to the probable cause statement. While a sign outside Lester's house warns the property is protected by surveillance cameras, detectives soon learned that the system had not worked since June 2022. So that sucks that isn't there. Before the shooting, Lester appears to have been living a quiet life in retirement. Some neighbors said that they did not know him, while another said he does not represent us. At Fox News watching, old man. Lester was a mechanic in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, Ludwig said, but is unclear where he was based. Online records show someone with his name served for 10 years in the Air National Guard in Virginia, but National Guard was not able to confirm that information immediately. He later worked as a mechanic for an airline. His grandson said employment records matching Lester's addresses indicate he was once worked as a technician for America West Airlines, an airline that had been based in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, there's a little bit left in the story, but yeah, his grandson doesn't think it was racism, but I mean, we'll wait as more, facts come out about the case, or doesn't come out about the case. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but to say that because he's an older American man, Christian, doesn't make him, racist. And he's talking about people watching Fox News and being like indoctrinated with fear. Like, what are you watching to just be like, well, he's an older man and he's Christian. They're just racist. That's how they are. Again, that is so broad that makes my dad and so many other people fit into that category. Which is crazy though, because if you watch if you spend any time on TikTok or other places like that, or Twitter, or just watch the news, that white people on the left, not all white people, but like a lot of these like activists are into CRT and other stuff, and white privilege and white guilt, they're like, all white people are racist, and they'll apologize for their ignorance and their racism, etc. And you're just like racist for the virtue of being white. So if that's what they peddle on the left, then it's, you can believe all white people, I guess, are racist, and that's your belief, but you guys, they've actually confessed to it. They've confessed to it, and I've seen people mad at white people for saying that they're not racist, and they're like, no, you are racist, and you're even more racist for denying that you're racist. So, just pointing at, like, yeah, older Christian American men, they're just racist. And it's like, well, are you a leftist? Because you guys have admitted that you're racist. Like, that's your thing. Like, so it's just wild to me. This whole thing is wild. But by the way, there's some like leftist, like ex-leftists who I follow, who said that one of the things that they hated about being a leftist was that they felt like they had to say they were racist, and it was just really funny to me and unbelievable that people would force themselves to live like that. But anyway, that's it. That's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, etc. Please make sure that you pre-order, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It covers theology, of course, but also covers philosophy. It covers biology. It covers rights. It covers why we need moral absolutes. And it talks about the societal harm of abortion. I'm often told, like, it doesn't affect you. I totally reject that mentality, and I have an argument. I do have an article on my website about it, and I do have an article, of course, the Bible's against abortion, but this is kind of like the evolution and expansion of all that stuff. But I do believe that as a society, it definitely affects more than just the woman, and has had like awful ramifications, even besides all the lives that have been taken. So there's a lot of information in the book. It was a big labor of love. I didn't write this book to condemn women. That wasn't my goal, and I believe in redemption over condemnation. And if you're a woman who did have an abortion and you can't find a way to forgive yourself, I do not want women to feel that way. And I'm, as a Christian, and I know not everybody who watches me is a Christian, but I believe that Christ died for our sins, and that's also sin that Christ died for. So I believe that God wants to make us whole and wants to make you whole. And so I hope that if you do read this book, that you will find comfort in it as well. My goal is, again, not to condemn women who have done that, but I do believe that this is a great evil in our society, and I want to see it ended. So I hope this book helps get some people there, or us there in general. But check out different merch at my store, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt that I have on. I have other shirts like the My Money, My Business. This is also one I made about the abortion issue. I'm like, if you guys want my taxpayer dollars, it kind of sounds like it's my business. Also got black tea mug and other stuff. And if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Bible says they have not because you ask not. So I am asking if you can support, please consider supporting and go to the website and make sure that you guys are putting in like your emails and follow me in other places. And you know, I guess I think on Rumble I do have a Rumble account too. So the links in the description. I've posted a few things on Rumble. I'm going to start posting more. And I think you have to hit 100 people before you can go live on Rumble. They might have changed that though, because I was looking at it the other day and it looked like I could maybe go live, but I'm not sure. But go ahead and subscribe over there if that's your preferred method, if that's what you would like to do. But you want to make sure that we can find each other. And lastly, tonight I am going to be going live, not on my channel, but on another channel. I had posted it in my on my YouTube posts the other day, and I don't think I put on Facebook, but I will put it on Facebook, that I will be interviewed by another channel about my writing and my books and stuff. So, 1 second, so I can go find the post. It's with J. Reese Bradley. So if you, I'll post it on Facebook. So if anyone's interested, they can go watch it later. But it's at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So just a few hours from now. So we'll be talking for an hour or so about whatever questions she has regarding my books. And then after that, I'll be on TikTok at 8:30 with my cousin. His name is Gabriel. His profile on TikTok is, 1 second. He plays for our church. He's a really good minister and stuff too. Can really preach. But he's a pretty good, pretty big, TikTok following. So we're gonna go on his channel.
So I know everybody.
Well, if you follow me, you'll see that I'm live, and it's going to be on my main account, my main Black Tea News account. So he's going to go live, and he's going to invite me on. So we're going to talk about my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, because he usually does a Bible study, and so that's like the topic that we're going to talk about. So his handle is Gabriel, that guy. So I don't know if you can. Nope, it's too bright. Oh, there you go, kind of. But that's him. So if you're on TikTok and you want to pop in and watch and be part of that discussion, we'll be talking about that. So that's what's going on tonight. So I've got lots more talking to do. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow.